Welcome back to another episode of the Pain, Performance, and Porrada Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nick Smith. I'm a licensed physical therapist and strength and conditioning coach for jiu-jitsu and other combat athletes. Today we're going to talk about the old model of physical therapy and how things have progressed and why AI, ChatGPT is not the way when it comes to addressing my particular field. I get asked semi-regularly, like, do you think you can be replaced by AI in what you do? And I think to some degree, sure, like you can go on ChatGPT and get a PDF of a template workout that would be rehab based, and it would give you some exercises, and it might or might not help. And I'm going to tell you a little story because this is pertinent. But where AI is just simply not going to replace me in any way, shape, or form, and what makes this new model of physical therapy and how I treat in my ecosystem, I guess you could call it, this evolved practice model, as my coach Frank Benedetto says, I can never be replaced by AI because I am a human. And the conversations that I have with people on a daily basis are intense and really intense. As you know, we're going through a pretty crazy social climate. The amount of conversations that I've had to navigate people trying to overcome injury while dealing with all the other shit that's going on in their lives, whether it's family stuff, whether it's work stuff, whether it's political stuff that's impacting their local government, whatever. AI will never, ever, ever be able to help somebody navigate these things. Sure, it might have this completely faceless, like, do these exercises, but it's not going to be there when you're in the thick of it. It's not going to be there to offer support, kindness, warmth, empathy. It's just straight up not going to. And the story that I bring up is, if you guys follow what's going on in the current AI model following ChatGPT, they just recently released ChatGPT 5.0. And I don't know if you guys know this, but ChatGPT is actually or OpenAI is losing money. The amount of resources that it takes to operate something like this at this capacity is actually insane, and it's costing them lots and lots of money, and they're basically taking this L on the money right now because they're creating something so incredibly insane that's going to pay off in the future. And right now they're at a crossroads because those of you who have used ChatGPT, you might be kind of using it like Google, right? Where maybe you ask for a certain prompt that's a little bit more generic, basic, and it's putting out this information. And I was reading a Reddit thread about this new update, and the comments about this upgrade were crazy because people were really, just the summary of it is, people were really upset about the lack of personalization, I guess is the word you could use. There were people that were like, I'm talking to a robot again. They didn't even remember what I said last prompt or in this different question. It feels like they don't even know me. And these were real responses for people. People are looking for human connection constantly. Physical therapy, although physical, requires so much emotional and psychological substance in order for it to work. It's not just me delivering exercises to people and then they just magically get better. The stuff that you don't see from what I post are some really, really hard conversations sometimes, helping people navigate preconceived notions, family issues, generational trauma, not to speak in hyperbole, but things that are just hardwired in people's brains, changing the way that they think, changing the way that they perceive things. And ChatGPT or some kind of template workout that's free will never, ever, 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 ever be able to replace that. And although we are starting to use AI to leverage business and make things easier, it's not going to replace that human interaction. And with that, I also think that the old way of physical therapy, and I'll explain what that kind of looks like, the old model is quite literally going to die very soon. For those of you who have gone to physical therapy in person, you've probably dealt with this kind of scenario, and I'll paint this one for you. You got hurt, you go to your doctor, they might have given you a referral for physical therapy. You go to physical therapy, do an evaluation, they check things, and they set you up for a plan of care that's like 2 to 3 times a week. You go in there for a session. Depending on the location, your sessions can be anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half. You spend maybe 15 minutes with the actual physical therapist, and then the remainder of the time, an aide or an assistant is taking care of you. And they're walking you through these various exercises, some of which might be progressed. And then you get a bunch of fluffy stuff. You know, you might be put on a bike for 15 minutes. You might get a hot pack for 10, 15 minutes. You might get a cold pack for 10, 15 minutes. You might do ultrasound. You might do just like a bunch of like fluffy shit. And so the amount of time you're actually doing work is maybe 25, 30 minutes. And maybe you get 15 minutes with a PT. Technically, in order for a physical therapist to bill, they only need to see you for 8 minutes. That's the rule. 8 minutes. If I see 8 minutes with you, I can bill 1 unit for whatever, and I can bill your insurance for it. So you do this, right, a couple times a week. You might get like a little packet of exercises that you can do at home. No one's really telling you, hey, get rid of this one. This one's too easy. Here's the progression. It's just like, do these and then by the end, you have this stack of exercises, and you don't know which ones are actually making you feel better. You don't know which ones are like good and which ones are bad. You're just doing them because they told you and they're supposed to be the expert. And that model is going to die because, one, you don't need to be inside in-person physical therapy 2 to 3 times a week. It's completely unnecessary. The magic doesn't happen during the session. The magic happens between the sessions. And leveraging, I don't want to say AI, but technology, I guess is the best word to say. You know, I utilize and communicate with my athletes through an app. So even though I may never, sometimes never, see a patient in person or a grappler in person, I'm able to talk with them quite literally every single day if I need to. We have multiple ways of being able to interact with each other between weekly check-ins, form checks for exercises, and then just any kind of Q&A, any kind of question they have. I'm at their disposal to answer anything. It could be performance related. It could be related to their injury. It could be related to a different injury. They have access to me whenever. And that's what's kind of lost between the traditional physical therapy model, because you go in for the session, you might be there for an hour, hour and a half, and it feels like they're getting a lot of stuff done, but a lot of it's just fluffy nonsense that's actually not doing anything. And then you have no contact with that person until the next session. Sometimes the gap between sessions is much larger. It may not even be 2 to 3 times a week. And then your insurance only allots, let's say 12 visits, right? They allot 12 visits. And you've gotten to a place where you're like, all right, well, I can function as a human, but I'm not sport ready. And then they'll clear you. Like, oh, you're cleared, even though you're not even ready for anything other than just like sitting at a desk. Then you've run out of your insurance, you've run out of your visits, and you're still not better. So this evolved practice model, like I said, from my coach, Frank Benedetto, has kind of taken a combination of where technology and AI kind of meets while still offering the human connection side of things. I can have some very, very in-depth conversations with my athletes constantly. And anything that gets brought up that they feel comfortable sharing, I'm there to coach them through it, how to navigate it, not just from a place of, I mean, I do care. Like I don't want people to hurt. I don't want people to be sad, upset, angry about things that are going on, but also realizing that this stuff is real life, right? Not every physical therapy experience is going to be this like walk in the park where you have all this extra free time and nothing's going to happen and no curveballs of life are going to be thrown at you and everything's just going to be magical. It's not the reality of it. I'm helping people through like shitty stuff where they can still make progress and make the necessary gains that they need to, all while being in the thick of some really gnarly shit that's going on in their life. And that's the whole point of a goal or having a coach. AI could never. Like even if you put the context in like specifically, like the advice that would be given would be so generic. They wouldn't even know how to process that. And for those of you who have gone through this physical therapy, or maybe you're going through it right now, maybe you've had a less than optimal experience. You're going in for your visits, you're like, I'm not really getting better. I'm getting some time in. And it's also super inconvenient spending 4.5 hours a week trying to carve out time to go to this appointment. Maybe you're taking time off work. Maybe you're trying to juggle like driving, your kids to school so you can make this appointment. And it's such a pain. And, with the way I have things set up, the workouts are built. Whenever you got time, you do them. You don't have to show up at this specific time. Yes, we do have calls, check-in video calls and all that. But, if somebody's even coming in after post-surgery and I'm seeing them, say, once a week, it's much more convenient than having to do what the old model kind of has been doing since forever. And it's not sustainable and it doesn't get the job done. But if you're somebody who has been dealing with, like, maybe you've used AI in the past, you're trying to use it and it's not getting you where you need to, or you're just not getting that same kind of emotional human connection that you feel like you need to really overcome this really psychologically harmful injury that you've had for years. Maybe it's changed your beliefs about what you think you're capable of doing. Or maybe you're somebody who's going through the insurance model of physical therapy right now. It's not getting you where you need to go. You need something a little bit more specific. My DMs are always open. Message me. Set up a call. In the show notes, there's always a link to be able to book a call with me. I'd love to be able to talk with you and see what's going on. See if there's a way I can be helpful or at least point you in the right direction. But I'm here to help. AI is not going to take over our job, at least not the good ones. PTs can't even do our job well. AI is definitely not going to replace it. It can give you some exercises, sure, but it's not going to be specific, especially if you're a grappler. But if you got questions, please reach out. I'm here to help you, here to support you. Remember, pain is not something you should fear, just something you should respect. This is the way. See you.